PEN HD2, Burlington, Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, Greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and she's Stacy Mitchell. We have Nick Wolf behind the camera, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're going to be covering a number of things today. What I would argue, and some experts argue, is the most underreported story of the year, that prices aren't dropping despite higher rates. A bill being introduced to the federal government banning institutional investing in single-family homes, a drop in NAR membership, and now there is a local MLS, well, not local to us, that's being roped into the commission copycat lawsuit. So if you get some value out of the show here, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and we're going to jump right in. So Logan Mohtashami and Housing Wire, they do a really nice job every week giving you an update on the housing market. It is super current. And the most underreported story, according to Logan, I tend to agree with this, is that even with rates hitting 8% now, obviously they're down. I'm seeing local quotes at 6.75% today. Home prices haven't dropped. And logic would argue that when rates go up, prices are going to come down. We haven't seen that. Is that surprising to you two?
I mean, not really with the amount of inventory we have, and as long as they were priced for the market from the get-go. Like where it's, I think typically where we see some of more of those price drops are where they were just priced too high.
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the inventory level where it is, that's the reason why the prices aren't dropping. And as each house closes, it becomes a comp. Mm-hmm. So if the house that's getting ready to list is, within that comp territory there, it can be listed at that new price point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then there could be multiple offers depending on the condition of the home, and that could drive the price even higher. So that's what some people out there don't understand.
Right.
That it's because of the competition still for buyers, and how when each house closes, it does become a comp. And that's where the updated prices are coming from.
Yep.
Well, that's certainly one reason. And what I'm clear on is probably one of the more important things to look at is that we haven't seen demand pull back. So you can say whatever you want about rates, but there are people out there that need to move. And what's evident is that the days on market that we're seeing right now is less than where it was pre-pandemic. So when that happens, that tells us demand is still stronger than where it was previously. So despite the higher cost to lending, when you look at demand still, being as strong as it is and supply not coming up at all, you're not going to see prices come down. And if you look at just weekly inventory change, just from last week, we saw inventory fall, which is a seasonal thing. This happens every year, from 555,000 plus single-family homes and single-family residences to 546,000. And we're pretty close to the peak of inventory in 2023 nationally, which was just under 570,000 homes. But in context, if you look at 2015, which was not a bad time to buy a property, there was 1,050,971 homes on the market during this past week, the first week in December in 2015. So you're looking at basically half, which that's going to continue to drive demand. That's why prices aren't coming down. And even though rates hit 8 for a little bit, they're not at 8 anymore. They're at 6.75, which I think has brought more people back to the market. And when you look at price cut percentages, we have consistently been 4% below the 2022 levels. So there's a lot of things happening here in the economy with what's available, the demand, what the 10-year yield has done, what rates have done that have caused prices to continue to go up. But, I mean, wasn't everyone talking about that we were going to see prices crash this year? I mean, how do you handle that? Like, I'm sure you're hearing this from buyers, sellers, everybody. What are you two saying to that when it comes up?
Well, it's funny because we do get this question a lot. And I'll ask back, well, what makes you think that?
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't really know. It's what we've been hearing on the news or, the how. I think it's
what they're hoping will happen.
It is. It's wishful thinking is what it is.
Yeah.
But when you actually break down the data for them, then the lights go on. It's like, oh. And they're waiting for this major foreclosure, foreclosed property influx to hit the market too. And when you present them with the data, about how much equity people have in their homes these days and why there's no reason for anybody to foreclose. Or there always is conditions, right?
Sure.
But for
They're
the majority
much more
of people
to list. If they are right.
Yes.
If they need to if they need to cash out, they can list and
cash
get it
out.
without foreclosing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think just taking them back to the data, I know there's always like different graphs and, visual things to look at from Keeping Current Matters or like if you go back and like look at some of these Housing Wire articles, they always have graphs. And I feel like visuals are kind of a good way to get a snapshot. And then just like explaining to them that, because of all of these different factors that we just discussed, there is no crash coming.
I agree. No crash.
I don't see how that would even happen. And no one ever talks about this. I mean, I disagree. We've started seeing positive news like the past 2-3 weeks about housing, but all year long it's been rates are too high, affordability stinks, and now that the economy settled down a little bit, the Fed's chilled out a little bit, and obviously we got a meeting coming up here. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But you're seeing that, what happened last year. Last year was the adjustment. And now we're actually higher than 2022 values overall, even though they came down a little bit. And the reason a lot of people thought prices would come down is because when volume decreases, usually prices follow. But the volume of sales didn't decrease because of a situation or an economic issue like we saw in 2008, because people couldn't afford homes and the economy was bad. This happened because there was nothing available. So that's why the number of And it wasn't nothing available. There's still plenty of homes that are selling. We're going to see 4 million sides this year, or 4 million sales, 8 million sides. But when that happens and you see a decline like that, people assume it's going to be price. But all the data here that I'm seeing, and we look at this on the show every week, but I'm studying this constantly, is that there's no way prices come down, at least in our market. Places like Austin, San Antonio, where they built up really quickly. It was demand fueled by the pandemic and relocation. We're just not going to see that here, and almost everyone else is agreeing. But you never see anyone talk about this. That's the interesting part here. So, I mean, you two seem to have a really good handle on how to address this with consumers. And I think the next question that we get here as we look forward is we got this Fed meeting coming up, right? So the big question right now that a lot of people have is, are we going to see the Fed, going into the holiday, are they going to – it's not so much the rate hike, because a lot of people agree we're not going to see a rate hike. There's a 93+% chance we're not going to see a rate hike. What are they going to say after the meeting? That's what concerns me the most, because they do one thing and say another, and what the Fed says matters a lot, especially in the Q&A portion of the press conference. And – we've seen inflation data settle down. We've seen some other things happening. So what do you think the commentary is going to be like afterwards? Because the comments will tell us where rates will go. I mean, they have like a real hawkish tone. It might be a problem. If they're a little more relaxed and saying this is what we wanted to happen, this is how we were hoping things would play out, there may be another softening of rates here.
Yeah, they love to make comments that affect the market, right? I, honestly, it's hard to say what Jerome Powell's gonna talk about, but I believe that they're gonna be finished raising the rates. I think the numbers are coming in where they want them to be more, or I should say, more closely to where they want them to be. It's never going to be their 2% rate inflation, but it is softening. So for them, that's good news. And again, I'll go back to it's an election year, so they'll want to keep the interest rates, more palatable as opposed to, increasing and people complaining. And I think, for them, they would rather have a more smooth economy than what was that than having the Fed increasing rates and causing more stress and angst
Yeah.
amongst consumers. So I don't think they're going to raise the rates. I don't know. They probably won't say too much to panic folks either because they don't want to disrupt the markets right now.
I think they're probably going to say they've been doing the right thing and now we're in a better spot.
They're going to take credit.
They're going to stroke
Take credit for what? Making everything go haywire here?
Right.
Maybe they are.
Right.
See, we're doing such a good job.
Right.
The inflation rate's down.
Yes.
Sounds like a typical politician to me.
Yes.
Yep.
I think that's probably where it will
That's
go.
a good one. Yeah.
I just get worried because we've seen them, hey, we're not going to raise rates, but we're going to raise it 5 times over the next. I mean, it's just these comments are very concerning. Now, the flip side is you look at what inflation's doing, and, we're now talking about rate cuts in 2024, but inflation has settled down a bit, right? We're not seeing 5 to 8% inflation anymore. We also got retail sales that are going to be coming up this week. So there's a lot of things that are going to be happening that I see that will influence these comments coming up. And just to give everyone the odds, this is like the betting line for what the Fed's going to do. So the next meeting is coming up here very quickly. It starts tomorrow. We got 22 hours left until the meeting. It's a 98.4% chance we do not see a rate hike. There's a 1.6% chance we do. I like those odds. I think that's pretty strong, and that's certainly encouraging. And a lot of people, ING in particular, so ING Economics, if you don't follow them, a very large economic and financial analysis firm, they expect a rate hold, and they think we might even see 4 rate cuts in 2024 and a couple more in 2025. So do you think that actually happens? Is ING right here with their predictions?
Wow. 4 next year?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems. I mean, that would be great. But I also feel like there's so many revisions to the initial, what they're predicting that goes on as things play out. That I think that there certainly could be cuts. I don't know if there will be 4. And I feel like partway through the year, if it's not trending that way, just a revised statement will be sent out.
You could be right about that. I mean, that's definitely very true.
I mean, 4 is a lot. I would think maybe 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 1, hold steady. Maybe another one, hold steady. But
Yeah.
4 is a lot. I mean, anything's possible. I mean, we predict a lot of things that don't happen.
Right.
So anything is possible. Again, especially when, they want the perceived economy to be good.
Right.
Yeah, that's very important.
So, if things keep going the way they're going, I mean, it's clear the Fed was wrong about like this jobless recession, and this was another great analysis after the jobs report that we got last week. It showed unemployment at 3.7%. It's clear that the Fed doesn't need to create this jobless recession to bring down the growth rate of inflation. We've seen unemployment's been so resilient this year. I mean, it hasn't really. Lowest we saw was what, 3.3, 3.4 maybe. So they got the jobless recession wrong, and I think that's actually a really good thing because I don't think it's good to see people get out of work to improve the economy. I don't understand how that works. Just from I'm not some economics professor or one of these people that gets paid a lot. It just doesn't make sense to me that lose jobs will improve the economy. I don't see that working out well. So. But what we've seen is that it looks like people are more cautious with their spending now, and we've seen wage growth kind of flatten out a little bit. And these other things have happened to get the economy to calm down, because when we saw the economy really take off, there was a lot more disposable income because people weren't able to go out to dinner, right? They couldn't go out and socialize. So there was a lot of forced savings that happened during the pandemic. And because of I'm really glad the Fed was wrong here. I think that's a good thing. And maybe they're going to realize that, because unemployment and wage growth were the things that caused them to keep raising rates. And now that they've seen that it's not stopping, but inflation's calmed a bit, I also get the sense they might not be so dead set on this 2% inflation target anymore. And we're talking about comments after this meeting. I would love to hear, hey, we know 2% is not realistic. That would be like the best thing you could hear from the Federal Reserve coming out of this meeting, because I don't see it happening. I mean, 2% inflation, I mean, you look at home prices, 3 to 5% a year is a really great number. So I think it's kind of unrealistic to get that number down to 2. And they've been using this lag data when it comes to rentals, and rentals have kind of cooled down a little bit as well. We're seeing that rentals are the rates aren't dropping, but like they're stagnant, which is something with rental data. So that's kind of my hope here, is that if they came out and said, hey, we know 2% may not be realistic, that would be a great thing. Do you two think that's going to happen?
I don't.
That they're going to make
tell
that
us
comment.
more. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Well, again, it would be them admitting that they were off target and they were off the mark. And just anybody in the federal government, it's hard for them to admit that they were wrong, or that, they were looking at, wrong markers. I just don't think they would ever admit to that. They wouldn't come out and say it.
Yeah, I don't think that they would ever say this was an unrealistic number. Maybe they would say this is our new new projected point that we're trying to hit.
That's a great analysis, Sarah. Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe they would be like 2.5 or 3% or like whatever the new number is, but like, and then just like roll with that, and not without ever saying 2% was just unrealistic and we weren't going to get there.
Right. Yeah. And maybe they'll also pull something out of that inflation number,
right,
to make it a 2%.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they pulled out energy and they pulled out
right
food costs and things like
yeah,
that.
Like, if we finagle it this way.
Oh, yeah. So they might finagle the numbers, and then, hallelujah, they have success at their 2%.
They do finagle the numbers.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, oh, well, we have core CPI versus regular CPI, and it's, one of the challenges here is I feel like this is just a mandate from the powers that be, that like, hey, we need to keep raising rates to keep the economy down. And I do agree. Part of this, there's an election coming up. I mean, this is going to be very highly contested, just like the last two have been. And you don't want an economy where people are not happy with it. And that's certain that's a concern for, I think it was like 60+% of voters when they polled them, that the economy was their biggest concern, not anything else going on. So
Right. And I think they're seeing that. And that's playing a big part in this, in what the Fed's doing.
What's interesting, too, about this jobs data is if you look at the monthly change in employment by industry, private education and health services, they've had the biggest monthly change in terms of, they had 99,000 jobs added in the month of November. You know what number 2 is?
Wow.
The government. 49,000 jobs were added, followed by leisure and hospitality at 40%, and then manufacturing at 28%. So what that tells me is that, I mean, education, you can say whatever you want about that, but the government's obviously believing in the economy. So why would you keep raising rates if they're hiring at that pace? I mean, they're adding jobs, and I mean, there's other challenges there too, because the government has an insanely high amount of debt right now, which is another problem. So, but that tells you their actions, I think, speak louder than any comments we're going to get here.
I have to agree with that. That's actually a disappointing number that the government's growing. So
usually the government has disappointing numbers associated with their job performance. So that's accurate. So are we all in agreement we're going to see a rate pause here? I mean, I think it's that seems like what we're talking about. Any other predictions coming out of the Fed meeting? Do you think they're actually going to revise the inflation forecast?
I think they're going to. Well, they're definitely not going to raise rates again.
Right.
Not yet. And I like Sarah's analogy. I like how they're going to come out and either they're going to pull something else out of their numbers to get to that 2%, or they're going to say, things are looking so great, and, our target now is going to be this. And didn't we do such a wonderful job?
Right.
I tend to agree. I mean, the government is not that person that takes I shouldn't say person, but that entity that doesn't take accountability for their actions. It's not like, hey, we really screwed this up, or that's my fault. You never hear that coming out of the government's mouth. So, the economy, I'm really optimistic heading into 2024. I mean, we're seeing rates come down. I see a lot of life in the market more than maybe we normally would. People are still giving us that holiday objection, but there's a lot of opportunities to meet with folks. I see the first quarter as being a pretty robust first quarter for real estate. What's your take on that before we wrap here at the break?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think there is a lot that can get done in the first quarter there, and kind of trying to get that filled and started early on and kind of build some momentum will be kind of key, I think.
Yeah, I think people are receptive and excited about the interest rates moving downward.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been very well received. So I think, after the holidays where people can refocus more on their house search. Right now it's party here, party there, and party everywhere. And they're kind of their focus is not 100%. Although the people that do have to transact, they will always have their focus. But for the majority, waiting till after the new year, where people have, okay, this is going to be our year, to get the house.
It's like a fresh page to reach out and be like, one, Happy New Year,
right,
and then kind of all right, let's
two, the rates are here, at this point,
and hey, let's set your goal. Is it it was 2023 that obviously passed? Is 2024 the year you want to make this happen?
Yep.
It's a good jumping off point. And then I guess just hope that they didn't overspend at Christmas.
They could spend whatever they want as long as they didn't rack up a ton of credit card debt. That might be what you need to watch out for, because that can affect your credit score. So I'm really optimistic in the first quarter, and we're going to get into this in a second because we've seen NAR numbers decline. I also see that if you're doing the work now, and we've talked about this at length internally on the show here, you can set up a lot of meetings and have a lot of stuff happen in January. I mean, the market it's almost like a forced slowdown, because as much as the three of us could be working, I mean, you've been working, you've been in the office all week. I'm obviously there every day. Some people just aren't going to do anything, no matter what you do. And you can't, you can tell them the benefits, you can talk about rates, but they're just not doing anything until after the holidays. But if you can get those meetings set up, hey, while you're free, if you got some time off, let's just sit down and plan and strategize and show them, hey, prices aren't, and there's all this good news now. It's not this stuff about unaffordability or rate volatility. We've been pretty steady on rates, which has been good. And that's why I'm hoping the Fed doesn't, shoot themselves in the foot or stick their foot in their mouth at the end of this meeting here coming up. So I'm in agreement with you, too. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the bill being introduced to ban institutional investing in single-family homes, and NAR membership, the National Association of Realtors membership, is declining again. This is Toole Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized, local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now, here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America's equal housing lender, NMLS 128501.
Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacy Mitchell. She's Sarah Timon. We have Nick Wolf behind the camera, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. We're going to be talking about this new bill that got introduced in both the House and the Senate about institutional investing in single-family homes, as well as the decline in the National Association of Realtors membership next, as well as an MLS getting roped into one of the commission copycat lawsuits. If you get some value out of any of these topics, you got something you want us to talk about, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, make sure to hit the bell for notifications. So, did you guys see this bill that got introduced last week?
No, not
No.
until reading these.
Not until I sent this to you. Okay,
Yes.
I love it. I appreciate the honesty more than anything else. You guys are too focused on helping people buy and sell real estate, so I can appreciate that. So Democratic lawmakers, and I want to talk about if you think this should be a bipartisan bill in a second, both in the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate introduced bills in each chamber designed to ban hedge funds from participating in the single-family housing market because of supply and affordability challenges. So I like the idea behind it. We'll talk about what's more practical in a second. It was a senator from Oregon introduced the End Hedge Fund Control of American Homes Act of 2023. That's a very aggressive title. And there were some representatives from North Carolina that did the same one. It's called the American Neighborhoods Protection Act in the House that would require corporations of owners of more than 75 single-family homes to pay an annual fee of $10,000 per house into a housing trust to be used as down payment assistance for families. So the ban is basically they can't own more than a certain number of homes. The idea is that affordability is a problem because some of these corporations compete with homeowners. What do you think about the thought process behind this bill or these bills? Because there's two of them.
I kind of like it. I mean, I don't know how it would. I'm like everything has an effect to it, right? So if you do this, like there's the chain reaction could actually be bad. But when it's face, and I like that it's like, of more than 75 single family homes. So this isn't your, person that has like a couple or like, and you could also have your full-time job could be acquiring, owning, and renting homes, and you'd still fall below that threshold and still be able to make a very good, living, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I like that there is a threshold there where it's really just keeping those like monster like owners to, kind of free up or to, if they don't want to give up the properties, which, that's fine, but like to put some type of annual fee into assistance. Like on its face, I kind of like it.
So there is some data that Keeping Current Matters put out, and it does say that institutional investors have 3% of the single-family rentals overall, and mom-and-pop investors have 80%.
Oh, all right.
So there, mom-and-pop investors still have
The majority.
the huge majority,
Yeah.
which is very positive.
Yeah.
Because this is how a lot of people, they have their small businesses, their small real estate, or they have one or two, rental properties.
Yeah.
It subsidizes their income, which I think is wonderful. So the institutional investors at this point it's 3%.
Right.
It doesn't seem like it's that much of a threat. Now, home
That's
affordable
3% of all
single family
single-family
rentals.
homes that are
non-owner
rentals.
occupied. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and they're saying that it's making it unaffordable, home ownership unaffordable, because these institutions are buying up, snapping up everything, and
Right.
nobody else can buy them.
Yeah.
Well, the numbers show that they have 3%
Yeah.
of the single family rentals. I think it's more to do with the home building and not having enough inventory. And this is why there's such a strain and why housing is
Yeah.
quote unquote unaffordable.
Right.
So I think there's good intention behind this
Yeah.
bill. And like you said, there's always unintended consequences with this. But I think we need to look more into other areas of how to really rejuvenate and rebuild and have more building. Now, there's going to be areas that we can't build anymore.
Yeah.
And I do think that a lot of the institutional buyers are in certain locations,
That's
Premium.
very accurate. Yeah.
Right.
premium locations.
Sure.
And that's probably makes people angry. And maybe it's in their districts.
Right.
Maybe the people that introduced this bill, it's in their districts and they're
Sure.
mad.
Yeah.
But I think overall we have to look a little deeper and see how else we can help
Yeah.
the housing market with the inventory.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there are cases where in some of these like elite markets, they don't necessarily maybe look at every dollar and they want to go in and maybe they do want to get as many as they can so that then they kind of control what's going on. Otherwise, I would think a lot like most investors that I work with are more focused on like it's a spreadsheet, like at what point do numbers make sense? So they're not going to be the one offering top dollar for a property to take it from somebody else. They're going to be monitoring and seeing at what at what dollar amount does it make sense for them to move forward on it, maybe getting more distressed properties, or maybe taking advantage of not taking advantage in like a bad way, but like if a seller needs to unload something quickly, like to move on with whatever they need to do with their life, and they're willing to take a lower price to have a sale just like go through right away, like maybe they're eyeing up for different possibilities for that. So I don't know that it's always that they're outbidding others for the homes.
Yes, because investors don't like to pay more.
Oh yeah, they want to pay less.
They want
and
to
it's
get the
not,
deal.
Right, and it's not like emotional and like, oh, but I can see us having this holiday here and
Right.
like whatever, they're like, how much can I rent this for?
Right, exactly.
So your both of your takes on this are I think are really important. And Stacy, what you had said is backed up by David Howard of the National Rental Home Council. He said that the issue is not institutional investors as much as the lack of action from home builders, and that policies really need to be shaped and crafted so they support production, investment, and development of new housing. I think bills that work against that ultimately are just going to perpetuate the challenges we're already facing. So that's pretty relevant. That it's a lot of it's like local zoning codes. Like they can only build certain kinds of properties, and we've gone over this before. The average sale price of new construction homes, county by county, outside Philadelphia, ranges from $800,000 to $1.2 million.
Wow.
So
Right.
any new homes that are being built are not affordable properties, and that's one of the challenges here.
And that's their base price.
Yeah.
Well, yes, yeah. So I mean, just add $200,000 on top of it, especially at that price point. So, it's the idea is good. I mean, I like the idea behind it. Although at the same time, I also invest in real estate, so I don't like that there's a limit. Obviously, it's and they're actually, this bill requires some of these people to sell all the properties off over a 10-year period. So, and these are businesses that are being built. So it's one of these things where I don't know you solve this on the national level because every housing market is different, right? Where a lot of these institutional investors purchase are places like North Carolina and Texas and Florida and Arizona. We don't see a lot of that here because, one, they don't like the product here because it's older. They tend to have a buy box that they want homes built after 1980, as an example, that are 3 bedrooms and no larger than 4 bedrooms. Like it's not like they're taking up all the inventory in all the places. So to me, it's fixing it on the local level, maybe approving more multifamily developments, maybe being a little looser with zoning codes. And that's the only way to really solve this, because you'll see people flock to where new construction is. I've seen this historically where new construction may be a little further out, might not be in the location someone wants, but they're willing to go there because they want a new house. And that's going to be a big driver here. So I tend to agree. It's like they tried, like they meant well with this,
Yeah.
and I meant well is like one of the most insulting things to like a business person. It's like, hey, nice try, like
Yeah.
you really gave it a good shot there. But I like the idea. I don't know how this wouldn't get passed. You would think it'd be a bipartisan bill, although people are saying that the likelihood of passage is low. And
I would also imagine that if you are an investor or that you own over that amount of properties, you would have either good lawyers or people that wouldn't you just then like create another name of your company and then sell half of them to your
own
like
other
or do
LLC
like
or
I
something.
feel like if you like you would do something to protect that and like prevent having to like give to affordable housing and like
Right.
you know what I mean. I think that like you'd probably find a way to skirt around it, and then the amount of money that would potentially have to be spent to like track them and like do whatever, maybe just off the bat put that towards this program.
I mean, you can get pretty creative with LLCs where you can have like a master or a parent company, and then every property's held in its own LLC if you want to
Right.
do that. So, now, I mean, who knows what's in this bill? I haven't seen it. I'm not going to read it either because it's probably like 100 pages long and it's got a bunch of government pork in there that's going to promote all the other stuff instead of
Right.
the actual crux of the bill here.
Mhm.
So, the issue's home builders, though. I do agree with your take, Stacey, and what the National Rental Home Council said. So, but your understanding of it is really great. I'd love the government to get involved in this on some level, but then the other part of me says the government's just going to screw it up and make things worse.
Yeah.
It could go either way. So it's a tough topic right now. I mean, it looks like at least people are thinking about it, which is good. And it kind of there's a question here of will this actually help affordability? And Lance Lambert from the Resi Club, he came in and put something together where basically he said that this bill, which could drive out institutional investors entirely and might create some supply, would that improve affordability? And a lot of people don't think so because we still have too much demand as it is right now anyway, like we just talked about. I mean, we need millions of homes, not like a couple 100,000. So that's the challenge here, is that it's not like this isn't like a quick fix. It's 3%, right? 3% is not enough. So that's Lance's take on this, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So and this kind of leads to the next topic, which is NAR membership dropped again. So if you look at NAR membership through the month of November, another 6,000 members dropped and left the association entirely. And it's now at 1.578 million agents last year, and now it's at 1.572 million agents this year. We see this decline. Is it a seasonal decline, which I think some people just get out of the industry altogether? Is it because dues went up? What do you think is the reason behind the membership decline right now? It could be that there's not enough homes to sell.
Well, I think it's all of the above. There's
Yeah.
people getting out of the business altogether. But also, you've had some brokerages say, we don't have to be members anymore. Our
Right.
agents don't have to,
Yeah.
pay dues anymore. So I think there's a lot of that too.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of mainly like the people just getting out of the industry entirely. It is it's a bit of a trickier market. Things, you have to navigate some more things. You have to work harder. So that in itself could be enough for some people to pull out. And then obviously if you're in an area where you don't have to be linked in order to get access to the MLS or whatever, then they may not see any benefit in it. I would find it like I feel like you would be on the verge of just leaving the industry anyway if the reason that you left was dues going from, here it says 150 to 156. If you're leaving over $6, but I think it's a lot higher than that, isn't it? Or is that like another thing that
No,
gets
I think
lumped
they
into?
lump stuff together.
That's NAR only. That doesn't
Oh,
include
okay.
PAR and like the
Okay.
local board and everything else.
Yeah.
So I've got a theory on this. I think when it comes time to renew licenses in May, you're going to see even more people drop off. And at least in Pennsylvania, I don't know what it looks like for what the renewal date is across the country, but I see this timed based on renewal. I mean, NAR's already got annual deficits of 10 to 15 million. You know, if they didn't pay Bob Goldberg a couple years for sitting
Right.
on his ass doing nothing, we could have, you know, we could have saved a lot of money there. They're forecasting a 15% drop in membership. So I think there's more to come here, and it's going to be in two waves, Stacey. I do agree with you. There's going to be some people that say, I don't need NAR anymore. We don't have that choice here, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I would suggest we do or don't do, but I know there's other people that have the choice. And what I mean by having the choice is not needing NAR membership to get MLS access specifically, not needing NAR membership to get the electronic keypad, which I think is a total pain in the butt, and that's another whole problem. But it's these things we're forced to use, and with renewal time coming up in May, I mean, and what everything that's going on, you're going to see some people that just let their license expire, and that's going to be it. And there's going to be other people that don't want to be part of NAR. Remember, in the Anywhere and RE/MAX settlements, part of the settlement is that you don't have to be part of NAR anymore. There's a lot of agents that are with Coldwell Banker and RE/MAX and other companies. Redfin already withdrew entirely. We saw an office in the Seattle, Washington area, or at least in Washington State, Coldwell Banker Danforth. They already withdrew from the organization. We know people who dropped their NAR designation a while ago because they didn't need it in other states. I can tell you about it off air. I think that's going to be part of this as well. And I think that it's going to be renewal. It's going to be people getting out of the business, and it's going to be they're sick of NAR.
Yeah, there's been a lot of negativity swirling around NAR.
Deservedly so, by the way.
Right, deservedly so. So people are they want to separate themselves from it. Unfortunately, we can't.
Right.
So, but this is the result of a lot of their actions, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to see.
And it's a continuing ed year, so people might just not want to.
Well, it's not just the renewal cost, right? It's like $96 to renew your license, but now there's so many ways to get free class. And we have a free class like next week at our office. I mean, it's all over the place, but some people don't want to do that. You don't have to sign up and spend the $500. I mean, you can get like a $99 package at online schools. It's more the time, and I think people have gotten to the point where they're not doing anything with their license anyway. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to where they're like, yeah, I don't think I'm renewing. It's just not working out, and that's what happens when when there's less homes that sell, and when there's a lot of negativity around the industry. Being a real estate agent was kind of sexy the past couple of years, and now with all this NAR nonsense and these commission lawsuits, I don't know that people feel the same way necessarily.
And scrapping and fighting for
well, yeah, and the
every
actual day to
listing
day, yes,
yeah, exactly. It's not sexy out there, but I think there's going to be a lot of retirement too. I mean, the average age of the agents are
it's like 56.
There you go. So, and I know there's plenty that are higher than that.
Yeah.
So I think there's people like I'm just out now.
Yeah,
it's time.
When you think about that, I'm just looking at the three people sitting here. We're all younger than that average age, right? And that's crazy to me. That's the average age of an industry, and it's because of everything that's happening right now. I mean, and there's sometimes you go to those CE classes, the average age is like 75. I mean, it's like, it looks like they should have been just retired, period, not retired from real estate. So, and that, I mean, I think about that when think about when you're interviewing agents. Is that really the kind of the person that you want? That's like maybe that's like, I'm just doing this when I feel like it, or it's a hobby for me. Because a lot of the agents, I mean, the average agent worked 30 hours a week last year. So there's kind of a hobbyist, I'm going to work when I feel like it mentality, and those are some of the people that are definitely dropping out of the industry as well.
A hobbyist is good if you're like knitting mittens, but
model trains, that's a good one.
But if you're dealing with someone's biggest financial investment, you don't want a hobbyist.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, beekeeping's a good hobby.
Yeah.
Right.
I can go through the whole list here. So on that note, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We are going to talk about how a MLS got roped into a copycat commission lawsuit next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
Mortgage America is equal housing number, NMLS 1285001.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America is equal housing number, NMLS 1285001.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and she's Stacy Mitchell. We've got Nick Wolf behind the camera, and we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're streaming live with this show every single week on YouTube. If you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications, and we are going to dive into a new commission lawsuit. There's according to Hank Lerner, by the way, who's the PAR legal advisor, there's 171 copycat lawsuits that have been filed.
Wow.
See?
Bananas number.
You did kind of
Seeing dollar signs there.
Yep.
So 171. However, on Friday, a new class action antitrust lawsuit was filed in the Northern District of California outside of San Francisco in the Bay Area with a Bay Area home seller. And among the defendants, along with NAR, was the San Francisco Realtor Associations and the BAREIS MLS. So they're local MLS and 5 national brokerages. This is the first one we've seen an MLS get looped into. And I'm not, totally surprised by this, and I'll tell you why in a second. Here's the list of defendants. NAR, Anywhere, RE/MAX, Keller Williams, Compass, EXP, the Bay Area Real Estate Information Services, Marin Association of Realtors, North Bay Association of Realtors, Northern Solano County Association of Realtors, and Solano County and Solano Association of Realtors. It's a lot of people. There's 60,000 real estate professionals use the BAREIS MLS, the MLS platform for the 5 counties, and the Realtor Association defendants are part owners. So this to me is where I think this gets sticky. This is the 8th major reported antitrust case filed that has gotten class action status, but there's other local lawsuits that have been filed, and it's they're applying for class action status now. What do you think about the MLS being included in here? That to me is the biggest piece of news that I see. There's not a whole lot of information on this, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, this really, it's getting out of hand. I'm going to be really curious to see where the original suits go as far as their appeals.
Right.
And how that plays out. And if it's tossed out. Because if that's going to set the precedent, because these new lawsuits that are cropping up, to me, it's like, it's for other reasons. Everybody got wind. There's a lot of attorneys now that are
probably
seeing.
Well, they're probably making a lit. They're probably pulling data for all sellers in the past, whatever, and then
Yep,
calling
calling
them
them.
and saying,
Circle dialing. Did
yeah,
you
they're
sell your house?
they're circle dialing.
And just to, when these lawsuits take place, and injury lawsuits, they do this too. They include everybody in the original lawsuit. We're going to include PennDOT. We're going to include the insurance companies and every person that was standing by, the maker of the stop sign, and things like that. So I think you cast a wide net to see what you can get. So I think they're dipping their toe in the pond here with the MLS.
Right.
So here's my observation. I don't see much with the merit of the lawsuit when it comes to price fixing, or there's a conspiracy theory that we all charge the same fee, because I know in practice that just doesn't happen. I've lost listings because people were willing to cut their commissions. I've seen in the MLS that people offer out less than the norm, if you will, whatever that number is. And we're not going to talk numbers here because that's an illegal conversation. So practically, I don't buy any of this. NAR and the attorneys in the Missouri lawsuit, the Sitzer Burnett suit, they did a bad job. And let's just call it what they got beat, right? It's no different than when the better team loses a game in sports, like they just got beat. That's what happened there. We'll see what happens with appeals. The one issue I do see is the forced usage of the MLS tied to being a member of the Association of Realtors. That's why it's part of the settlement with RE/MAX and Anywhere. And I'm surprised this hasn't happened sooner, because and then if you notice, Bright kind of broke away when all this was going on and said, hey, you don't have to offer out compensation anymore. Then NAR supports it. And that's where they lost the case in the first place. These states, and we're one of them, where you're stuck. You have to use, if you want MLS access, you have to be a member of the board. It doesn't, that can be, some sort of challenge. Because what if someone doesn't want to be part of the National Association of Realtors?
Right.
There's nothing in state law that says you can't sell real estate unless you're a realtor. You have to be a real estate salesperson. That's what the license says. So I do see some validity to this, and I think that's kind of, that's kind of my observation with this. I mean, it does make some sort of sense to me, and I think the MLSs need to be careful here, because if they don't adjust their rules and like the clear cooperation rule is another great example. We talked about that on the show a lot, and that was years ago when that came out, right? And who's the National Association of Realtors to tell a homeowner, hey, if you want to list with an agent, you got to put it in the MLS?
Right.
What right do they have to do that? And that's the problem here. And if they were presenting it the right way, maybe they could have had a different outcome in the lawsuit. But those to me are the major challenges here, is the forced usage of the MLS. And you're seeing RE/MAX and Anywhere have already said it's okay. We're seeing a Coldwell Banker office in Washington State back out. We've seen other companies do this in places like New Hampshire and other states where you don't need it. So I see this as that's the issue here. That's why I'm surprised the MLSs were not named in previous lawsuits.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense though. So how does Pennsylvania go about decoupling from being required to be a member of NAR to have access to the MLS?
Why? So this is what I don't know a lot of info. I mean, I'm not an attorney, clearly, but in the case here, like the filing point says that the MLS members were obligated to and did adopt, implement, and enforce anti-competitive restraints. Now, I don't agree with that, specifically through policies that required home sellers to make a blanket, unilateral, and non-negotiable offer of buyer broker compensation. So it is negotiable. You can offer out whatever you want. You just had to offer out something. There's no difference between a $0 and a $1. That's what Bright did, our local MLS. So, I mean, and look, there's times when I sold homes and didn't make any money. I mean, where you make it work, and there's some other thing going on. So that's the issue here, though. That's where I think there is some validity to the case. But the fact that these people are signing contracts, knowing what they're signing, it's being explained properly. But there are agents that just say, "Hey, go sign the dot loop," and they don't explain it to them. And this is what good agents should be making this clear.
Are they saying that they would have liked to determine the amount after the home is under like that?
They're not saying that at all.
Right?
I mean, I don't think that's the case here. But I see why the MLS is getting roped in. And I've been to the T360 conference where these guys have there's guys and gals that are like the CEO of the MLS. I'm like, what does the CEO of an MLS even do? Like, I mean, it's like, I mean, You got some tech features there. Like I didn't realize it was such a big thing. And this is the challenge with MLS usage. Now there's places like New York City where they don't have MLSs, and I think it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes. Finding what's for sale and doing things differently. But this is the challenge here. I would be surprised if more MLSs don't get roped into these lawsuits.
Yeah, this will definitely set a precedent, obviously, because it's
Right.
going to be, oh, well, we left them out. Let's loop them back
Yep.
in here.
Let's go again.
Mhm. I mean, if they have a CEO of the MLS, there's money to be had.
Right. Interesting.
Very. But it would be nice in our marketplace to be able to decouple.
Well, I
from-
think that's what's going to happen here is
Yeah.
that you don't have to be a member of NAR to get MLS access. And it was that Rex Zillow lawsuit. They kind of said the same thing, where they got Rex that now the company's defunct now, but they couldn't get their listings adopted the same way on Zillow as like a Remax mainline listing because they weren't part of NAR or the MLS, which they couldn't get on there anyway, and Zillow's a brokerage, so it gets very complicated. The case overview is that the lead plaintiff sold a home, paid a 3.5% fee to the listing agent, 2.5% to the buyer agent, and they allege conspiracy among defendants to require seller to pay commissions for the buyer as well as the listing broker, paying inflated commissions on the sale of their home, which, again, I don't really agree with. I mean, these things get negotiated all the time. That's just not accurate.
Right.
But they're negotiated with the broker, right? And the broker is the one that offers out.
Well, you can say, hey, here's my fee, and I'm not negotiating it, but it is negotiable. Like that.
Right.
I mean, that's how negotiations
It's
work,
all
right?
negotiable.
Right.
Yeah, everything in real
Isn't that
estate's
just how-
negotiable.
Isn't that just how life is? Like,
Negotiable.
You draw your line.
Right,
Like,
exactly. Whether you're going to
willing
pay it
do
or
some
not.
Stuff, not. Yeah. This is.
Yeah. And what
yeah.
do I get for that money that I'm paying out?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see this go to the Supreme Court. I mean, I think
Ooh.
this is where, I mean, 'cause there's
Okay.
so many of these things going on.
Yeah.
I mean, how far is it going to go?
Right.
So that's all we
Supreme
got
Court's
this
getting
week.
backed up.
Yeah. I mean, you got to start hearing these cases at some point. So that's all we got this week. Remember to follow and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You want to follow Sarah? She's on Instagram at Ty_Ty Time. You can follow Stacy at the number 2 Mitchko. You can follow me at TomTool3RD. And we'll be back live every week, streaming live on YouTube here on WWDB 860 AM. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio.